In the vast emptiness of the Central Asian steppe, where the horizon stretches forever and the wind never stops blowing, an empire was born that would shake the foundations of the world. No walls protected its capital. No rivers defended its flanks. No ancient tradition gave it authority. All it had were horses, arrows, and a man whose name would become the most feared in human history. His name was Temujin, and the world would come to know him as Genghis Khan. Chapter 1. The Steppe Before the Storm. In the 12th century, the Mongolian plateau was a fractured world. Dozens of clans competed endlessly for pasture, water, and survival. There were the Merkits, the Tatars, the Naimans, the Karaits, each fiercely independent, each united by a single brutal principle: the strong survive, the weak serve or die. Into this world, around the year 1162, Temujin was born. According to Mongolian legend, he entered the world clutching a blood clot in his fist, a sign, the shamans said, that he was destined to rule. His father, Yasuji, was a minor clan leader with enough prestige to arrange a marriage for his young son. At 9 years old, Temujin was brought to the camp of the Ongjarat tribe, where he was betrothed to a girl named Borte. His father left him there and rode home. He never arrived. The Tatars, old enemies, offered him a meal along the road. He accepted. The food was poisoned. Temujin returned home to find his family abandoned, stripped of followers, left to survive on the open steppe. His mother foraged for roots and berries to keep her children alive. His brothers fought over scraps of food. And Temujin, barely a teenager, killed his own half-brother in a dispute over a fish. This was the world that forged Genghis Khan. Chapter 2. The Making of a Conqueror. Over the following years, Temujin's fortunes rose and fell like the steppe wind. He was captured by enemies and held in humiliation, wearing a heavy wooden collar around his neck. He escaped. He was raided and kidnapped again. He survived. What set Temujin apart was not cruelty alone. The steppe had plenty of cruel men. It was something rarer and far more dangerous: the ability to inspire absolute loyalty in those who followed him. He understood that the clan system was a trap. Loyalty to blood meant endless cycles of revenge and counter-revenge, feuds that stretched across generations and solved nothing. Temujin dismantled that system. He promoted men based on merit, not on birth. A man who showed courage and loyalty could rise from the lowest rung to command thousands. He shared plunder equally with his followers. He remembered every name. When his wife Borte was kidnapped by the Merkits, he rescued her with an army built from nothing, men who followed him not because they were obligated to, but because they chose to. By 1186, Temujin had been declared Khan of his tribe. By 1206, at a great assembly on the banks of the Onon River, a gathering called the Kurultai, the leaders of every Mongolian tribe proclaimed him something no one had ever been before: Genghis Khan, universal ruler of all the peoples of the steppe. He was in his mid-40s, and the conquest of the world was just beginning. Chapter 3. The War Machine. The Mongol army was unlike anything the medieval world had ever faced. It was built around the horse archer, a warrior who had been riding before he could walk and shooting arrows before he could read. A Mongol soldier could fire up to 10 arrows per minute from horseback, at full gallop, twisting backwards in the saddle to shoot at pursuers. Each warrior brought 3 to 5 horses on campaign, switching between them constantly to keep his mounts fresh. The army was, in essence, a force that moved at the speed of thought. But mobility was only part of the genius. Genghis Khan was a tactical revolutionary. He mastered the feigned retreat, a maneuver so disciplined and so convincing that it destroyed army after army. His forces would appear to flee in panic, drawing enemy cavalry into open ground far from their infantry, then wheel around and annihilate the pursuers from all sides. Armies that were winning discovered, too late, that they had lost. He used psychological warfare before every major battle. Messengers were sent ahead to cities and kingdoms with a message stripped of all ambiguity: surrender and be spared. Fight and be destroyed. Utterly. Every man, woman, child, and animal. The cities that believed him survived. The cities that doubted him became warnings. His organizational system was equally revolutionary. He divided his forces into units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000. The Arban, the Zun, the Mingan, and the Tuman. This decimal structure allowed unprecedented coordination across distances of hundreds of miles. Generals communicated with colored flags by day and signal fires by night. The Mongols also had no pride about learning from their enemies. When the walls of Chinese cities proved impervious to cavalry, they recruited Chinese engineers who brought siege weapons, catapults, battering rams, fire bombs, and rockets. The army that conquered Persia absorbed Persian engineers. The force that advanced into Europe incorporated captured siege equipment and European experts. No empire in history adapted as ruthlessly and effectively as the Mongols. Chapter 4. The World Shakes. Between 1209 and 1227, Genghis Khan reshaped the map of the world. The Jin dynasty of northern China, commanding millions of soldiers and protected by the greatest walls ever built, fell after decades of devastating campaigns. The Khwarezmian Empire, a vast Islamic state stretching from modern Iran to Afghanistan, home to the most refined cities in the medieval world, was obliterated in under 3 years. Samarkand, one of the jewels of the Silk Road, fell in 1220. Bokhara, a center of Islamic scholarship and culture, was burned to the ground. The Shah of Khwarezm fled across his own crumbling empire and died hiding on an island in the Caspian Sea. The numbers recorded by chroniclers of the era are difficult to comprehend. Some historians estimate that the Mongol conquest caused the deaths of 40 million people, roughly 10% of the world's entire population at the time. The Aral Sea eventually shrank because the irrigation systems that fed it were destroyed and never rebuilt. Parts of Iran and Central Asia lost populations they would not recover for centuries. Entire cities vanished so completely that archaeologists struggle to find their ruins. Genghis Khan died in 1227, still on campaign, at approximately 65 years of age. The exact cause of his death remains unknown: a fall from a horse, an arrow wound, typhoid, a local infection. His body was carried back to Mongolia and buried in a location kept deliberately secret. His tomb has never been found. The greatest conqueror in human history vanished as suddenly as he had appeared. Chapter 5. The Empire that kept growing. His successors did not stop. If anything, they accelerated. His son Ogdi continued the conquest of China and sent armies westward under the brilliant General Subutai, perhaps the greatest military mind in Mongol history. In 1241, Mongol forces crushed the armies of Poland and Hungary in a single coordinated campaign, then sent advanced scouts deep into Austria and Germany. The Duke of Austria's forces were destroyed. The Holy Roman Empire scrambled to organize a defense. Then Ogdi died. The Western army turned back to Mongolia for the succession. Europe never knew how close it had come. Genghis Khan's grandson Kublai Khan completed the conquest of China, founding the Yuan dynasty and becoming the first non-Chinese ruler to govern all of China in 1,000 years. He attempted invasions of Japan and Java that ended in catastrophe. Storms destroyed his fleets both times, and the Japanese named those storms kamikaze, divine winds. Even the Mongols had limits the gods would not allow them to cross. By 1259, the empire stretched from the Pacific coast of China to within striking distance of Vienna, 13 million square kilometers, the largest contiguous land empire in the recorded history of our world. Chapter 6. The Pax Mongolica and the World That Followed. And then something unexpected happened. The violence paused, and trade began. The Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peace, lasted for nearly a century. For the first time in history, a single political authority controlled the entire Silk Road from one end to the other. Merchants, diplomats, missionaries, and ideas traveled freely from the courts of Europe to the harbors of China. A Chinese emperor and a French king exchanged letters. Marco Polo made his famous journey and returned to Venice with stories no one in Europe could believe. The exchange of goods was profound. Silk, spices, and porcelain flowed westward. Glass, wool, and silver moved east. But ideas traveled too: printing techniques, gunpowder, astronomical knowledge, mathematical concepts. The Mongol peace connected the world in ways that would not be surpassed until the age of ocean navigation 2 centuries later. The plague also traveled those same roads. The Black Death, which would kill a third of Europe between 1347 and 1351, almost certainly spread along the Mongol trade network from Central Asian reservoir populations. The same roads that carried silk and knowledge also carried the bacterium that would reshape European civilization. The empire itself did not survive. Climate change, succession crises, the Black Death, and the sheer impossibility of governing 40% of the Earth's landmass from a single center fractured it into competing successor states by the mid-14th century. But Genghis Khan's descendants ruled much of Eurasia for 3 centuries after his death. The Mughal emperors of India were his descendants. The rulers of Persia, of the Golden Horde, of Central Asia, all trace their legitimacy back to the man from the steppe. His genetic legacy may be equally vast. Modern DNA studies suggest that approximately 16 million men alive today carry a Y chromosome that traces back, through an unbroken paternal line, to Genghis Khan himself. He came from nothing. He was the son of a poisoned chieftain, abandoned on a windswept steppe, wearing a wooden collar around his neck. He built the largest empire the world has ever seen. And the world he remade, for better and for worse, has never fully recovered from the tremor he sent through it. The steppe is quiet now, but the echo of those hooves never entirely fades.